Hey y'all, and welcome. You're listening to the Cowgirl Confessions podcast. I'm your host, Dakota Dawn Johnson, small-town cowgirl with southern roots, blazing a trail as a Midwest ranch wife, mama, and businesswoman. The mission of Cowgirl Confessions is to share the wonderfully wild and western life stories of cowgirls from all walks of life. We'll talk about the highs, the lows, and everything in between when it comes to navigating careers, cowboys, kids, and cattle. Legendary cowgirl Dale Evans said it best: "Cowgirl is a pioneer spirit, a special brand of American courage. The cowgirl faces life head-on, lives by her own lights, and makes no excuses. Cowgirls take stands. They speak up. They defend the things they hold dear. A cowgirl might be a rancher, a barrel racer, a bull rider, or an actress, but she's just as likely to be a checker at the local Winn-Dixie, a full-time mother, a banker, an attorney, or an astronaut. If you're into wet saddle blankets, talks with God, buckets full of laughter, and the life lessons learned in the process, kick off your boots and settle in. I pray these stories encourage, empower, and give you just the leg up you need. Here's to embracing the cowgirl state of mind, no matter how wild and western life may get along the way." Welcome to the Cowgirl Confessions podcast. Thank you for joining us today. It is such a special treat today for me to have my longtime friend and mentor, Lisa Whitman, with us on the podcast. Lisa is a leader that has found a way to serve people through her business. Her dedication to helping people, combined with her cowgirl roots and business savvy, are just a couple of the reasons why I'm proud to call her my friend and share her with you today. Lisa can also make a mean chocolate gravy, and she wears many hats while wearing them well. From being a wife and mom to serving in multiple capacities in her local community while also running her own law office, Lisa lights up any room or conversation she enters, leaving both people and places better than she found them. On today's episode, Lisa is covering a much-needed, time-sensitive topic that I'm confident can make the difference in lives of many. That's why I was like, oh my goodness, we have to have you on the podcast to share this with our guest. She's breaking down the BOI report. Now, if you're wondering, what is a BOI report? No worries. I was asking myself the same exact question less than 60 days ago. So the BOI report is the Beneficial Ownership Information Report required under the Federal Corporate Transparency Act. That's a mouthful, but the good thing is Lisa is going to share like the who, what, when, and how for all things BOI report today in a way that is not overwhelming and also provides actionable steps for those who need to proceed with the filing before the end of the year. So one last thing, if you're anything like me, you're probably listening to this while doing other things, and it's not an ideal situation for you to take notes. But, you know, in the middle of the night, you're going to wake up and go, oh, I wish I would have saved that podcast, or I need to refer back to it. Where is it? So go ahead, do yourself a favor, take a pause, click the three little dots at the top of your phone screen, and you can choose to download or save the show so you can refer back to it when you're in a spot you can take these notes. Without further ado, Lisa, welcome to the show.
Hi, Dakota. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you so much for letting us do this. It's always fun to start my day with you.
Oh, absolutely. And hey, you know, we're the only ones that are like, when you got time, hit me up at 5 a.m. Let's do this. You know, that's our regular meeting time.
Exactly. I love it. It starts my day great, and especially this one. So thank you.
Yes. Well, Lisa, thank you for being here. And you guys, as you listen, this is going to be a cup of ambition. I promise you, this is going to be such a great episode with lots of information. But what I'm really excited about is just for you to be able to hear the heart behind, because I think that's interesting as we meet people throughout our journeys and look at the different businesses that have been created or the products and resources people offer. It's like, why? Why did they feel driven to do that? You know, how's it serving other people? And I'm just really excited to, you know, dive into all that today. But first, Lisa, can you share with us your Western roots and really your education kind of journey as you have had lots of different awesome experiences leading you to where you're at today?
Okay, well, Dakota, I grew up, as you know, in rural Oklahoma in a small little town, and had a mom and dad who we grew up on a ranch and a farm. It was kind of a combination ranch farm, and never really had parents that had that 9 to 5 routine. We just always worked for ourselves, and we worked for other families growing up. And my dad got me involved in rodeo when I was little, and the play day situations and all the fun things like that. And grew up with horses and cattle, and loved it. And then graduated high school, went to college, and got a degree in radio, television, communication. Thought I wanted to be the next great journalist on television. And then I realized that was just a lot of just bad news every day. And I just thought, I don't want to live my life this way. I want to live my life, doing, spreading joy. And I had worked about 3 or 4 different jobs during college. And one of those led to a law firm, which led me into going to law school. I thought, I can do that. I learned that. And then I went to law school at the University of Oklahoma. But in the course of that, I was that girl that would show up, with maybe a horse trailer tied to the back of my pickup in the parking lot. So I wasn't your conventional law school student, but had a lot of fun there. And then after law school, ended up bringing my law practice back to, I'm only 15 miles from where I grew up. And I love that. I love where I'm able to serve people that helped raise me.
So special. So one of the things you said there is how your mom and dad really kind of set this example for you of not having that traditional 9 to 5 type job. Can you share a little bit more just about, did you realize that was having such an impact on you before you went to college? Was it after college? Like kind of how did that play out?
I don't think I realized it when I lived through it, because it was just life. I mean, breakfast was usually the meal that we all had together, because it was really the only time that we were in the house at the same time. But I don't think I really zoned in on how blessed I was that my parents were, they were raising me, but also raising me in a way that taught me a work ethic. And I really didn't know anything other than, you got up and you worked, and you did the things that you love for the people that you love. And so I don't think it really ever, resonated with me until I was older. And I thought, wow, I don't know that I want to work on someone else's clock. Then I'm confined to working on what they want me to work on, when they want me to work on it. And then that, was kind of a controlling issue, I think, with me. I thought, I don't want to do that. I want to be able to work in an environment where I can, work doing something I love for the people that I love. And that's kind of what my mom and dad instilled in me, which means that I work more than 9 to 5 most days, but I love it. And I love what I do. And I love being able to have the time to spend with my family. And sometimes they get the best of me at 5 a.m. And sometimes it's, 10 o'clock at night, but we make time to play hard. But we also, work hard. And we've tried to teach our kids that's the way that you get where you're going in life, is you have to work hard toward the goals that you set for yourself.
Yeah, I can attest to that firsthand from, being in, I'd call it in your circle of influence, and not me influencing you, but you influencing me, being able to work alongside you in your law office years ago, and just getting a passenger seat right there, watching you raise your family in those years that I feel like I'm walking through right now with young children and trying to balance a career and all the things, but showing up and doing it with joy in your heart, even if, you got 3 hours of sleep the night before. Like that's something I've been really blessed to have lots of influential women in my life, but not all of them necessarily juggled all the different types of things that you did. I feel like, we refer often that it's a rare breed, when you find someone that's doing that. And I think it's, just been such a godsend for me, because much like you said about your mom and dad, and maybe you not realizing it at the time, I didn't realize at the time how much watching you navigate careers, cowboys, kids, and cattle, like how all of that 10, 15 years later would serve me in a way now, to where some days I think, how am I going to do this? And I'm like, well, I've seen Lisa do it. I can do this. You know what I mean? Like I know other people that, and you're one of those women that I'm just so grateful to have had that influence in my life, because some days you wonder if you can. And one of the best things you ever said to me, oh my gosh, this needs to go on a t-shirt, but it's like, hey sister, just some days, like, don't forget to put your cape on. You got to put your cape on every day. And some days, like, just, it's going to get caught in the fan, and it's okay. When it does, take it off. And so I just always think, if you're going to be a superwoman, like you got to have that cape you can take on and off.
That's right. And Dakota, I guess I forgot to mention that earlier. I don't know if people know, but that's, the reason I met you in the first place was our tie through Miss Rodeo USA. And I knew after I had our youngest son, Jake, when I was 43 years old, I thought, I can't do this alone. I need help. But I've always thought that you have to surround yourself with good, solid people. And, you are a reflection of the people that you surround yourself with. And I thought, I need help whenever I wanted to start back to work with my little boy Jake, and I really didn't want to send him to daycare or anything. And I thought, okay, I need to find a busy person and someone who can juggle chaos. And then that's when I knew that you were wanting to move toward Oklahoma from Alabama back then, and called you. And when you said that thing earlier about 3 hours of sleep, you showed up. If I don't remember if you even had 3 hours of sleep because you drove most of the night and then showed up right on time to walk in my front door. And I handed my little sweet baby Jake off to you, and off I went. And, the adventure started from there. And that's in that phase of our life. But I knew of anybody that I could trust with my child and trust with my chaotic life, and that also had a cape on would be you.
Again, now that I've had some life and I'm a mom myself, I understand like when someone trusts you enough to be in a nanny type role, there's like no higher honor. There truly is not, because they are trusting you with their most prized possession, their most precious thing in the whole wide world. And so, thank you. Thanks for giving me that opportunity, because being on the other end now, it's like, wow, me rolling in at right on time with the horse trailer hooked up. But I made it. I was there. And goodness, like you said, the adventure just unfolded from there.
It did. It did. And I am so thankful for all of our journeys together. I know this is kind of off the subject, but speaking of Miss Rodeo USA ties, I was in church yesterday morning, and a friend of mine was sitting next to a lady who I did not know. And we had like a group adult Sunday school lesson out in the sanctuary. And when it was over, apparently my friend had told this lady I didn't know that I used to be Miss Rodeo USA. And you will not believe this. She is the stepsister to Lana Grubb. Lana
No
Hickok.
way. No
I
way.
promise. I almost fell over, because she was Miss Rodeo USA in 1992. And I just, it blew me away. Just did. It was just really neat that happened yesterday before, talking to you again this morning. This is just God working in crazy ways.
Yeah, it's so neat how he intertwines and connects all of us, in this rodeo Western industry. And I think that's what's one of the reasons I really wanted to have you on, Lisa. I mean, I wanted to have you on even before. We've been talking about having this episode for like 2 years. And so now I'm like, God's timing's just aligned, because your story and, how I feel about you, I feel like that's meaningful enough to have just had you on the show. But throughout this year, you and I have talked, and what you are now going to be able, and you are offering already to people. And I thought, our Western industry has to hear about this, because there are so many men and women out there that have started businesses, and like they need somebody who, number one, like knows their stuff when it comes to this, the legal aspect, but then they also need someone who has, it's just such a relief when you can meet someone who gets it when it comes to our Western industry, and not only gets it, but like has a heart for what we do, has a heart for the way we live, has chosen to raise their children that way. Like, I know we will get to more of that in a minute about the BOI report and just everything that goes along with it. But I would love to know, take us back to, okay, you went to law school, graduated law school. You're not the typical law school student. You're there with your truck and trailer every once in a while in the parking lot. And what was it like from that point kind of to now? Okay. And I know that's a gap, Lisa, but I want to know, what type of job opportunities did you take on and things you had to do between, starting this journey as an attorney and then now working for yourself?
Well, I graduated law school, gosh, in 1996, and then I went out to Amarillo and worked in a law firm, and then transferred to a law firm in Oklahoma City when I had my first child. And I wanted to be close to my family. I wanted to raise my kids in the community where I grew up. I wanted them to have that same, foundation underneath them. And so moved back to Oklahoma, and then had a really neat opportunity to work on a case for the International Arabian Horse Association, where we prosecuted like the world's largest Arabian breeder for. It's a crazy case but it was really exciting. We went to Denver, Colorado, and worked on that one. But in the middle of that, I had an opportunity to go to work at the law school at the University of Oklahoma and teach at the law school and coach all the competition teams, which was right down my alley to be competitive and go out and try to be the best. And so I did that for several years. Had another child in the middle of that. Then I went to work on my own and I opened my own law office, and life just got really busy. And, there was kind of this, we talked earlier about what's that aha moment that you knew you wanted to do something different with your life. When Allie was my youngest daughter was in pre-K, they sent a question home for the kids to answer for Mother's Day right at the end of the school year. And the question was, what's your mommy's most important job? And
Mhm.
all of these kids were saying, oh, she reads me bedtime stories and makes me cookies and we sing songs and play games. And Allie's answer was getting people out of jail. And I was like, dang it. Dang it. That's a huge mom fail. I don't want to be that. I want to bake cookies and I want to be that mom. And so now here I am, 20 years later trying to sort that out. But I had an opportunity in 2012 to go to work for a man that owned some companies down in Texas and up in Oklahoma City, and I've worked solely for their company for the last 12 years or so. That's given me some time to get some insight on what I want to do in this last phase of my professional life. I'm 55 now, and so I thought, what do I want to do with the next 20 years of my work life and my family life? And it's not going back to private practice, and we are not going to continue our corporate line of work very much longer. And so I thought, okay, how can I help others? What can I do to help small businesses and ranchers and farmers and the people that I grew up with? And so I've really tried to develop a company separate from my law office that focuses on business development, how to set up a company, how to run a company, how to hire the right people to work with you and surround yourself with every day that would help you grow and thrive. And then also sort out the legal, technical stuff that we get so busy working on, all the color of our life in our business that the black and white nuts and bolts stuff kind of bogs us down sometimes. So if I can help people with those legal parts of, getting their company set up and running right. So that's kind of where I wanted to shift my focus more on doing things for small businesses and then estate planning for families that, like Dakota, like your family, you've
Mhm.
got young kids and your needs right now, like for an estate plan would be, very different than your needs are going to be when you're in your 60s and 70s. And so we've developed a program that kind of grows with the family. So just things that serve the people that I love. And it's a whole lot more joyful to do that than end up going to the courthouse to get people out of jail. So anyway, so I am loving life right now. I'm finally trying to correct that answer that my kiddo gave so many years ago.
Thank you for sharing that moment, Lisa. And I feel like everybody listening to this can relate to that. When you have a moment that just sticks with you and it's not necessarily the reflection of yourself that you wish it was. And
Right.
then trying to figure out how you correct that in a way. And I think that's different for each of us, but there's one thing that I know is that all of your kids, much like you watching your mom and dad, they've seen what it takes to go after your dreams, to work hard and to serve in a capacity that's bigger than yourself. So I'm just really excited to really kind of get to be alongside you again for this new journey, this chapter. And I just want to shout it from the rooftops, what you're doing. And I think of so many people, my family included, in the businesses that we have that you're helping already. So let's dive into this BOI report because whenever you first shared it with me, it just kind of came up in one of our casual conversations. I'm like, okay, so where did I miss the memo on this? But thank you for sharing with me. Now help me. So let's dive in.
When it comes to shopping, I love to shop small, and supporting business owners who are also cowgirls is even better. High Call Outfitters, located in Great Bend, Kansas, is owned and operated by my mentor and cowgirl friend, Julie Miller. Being immersed in the Western lifestyle herself, Julie has a unique understanding of cowboy and cowgirl needs, both in and out of the arena. High Call's curated collection of apparel and footwear focuses on bringing fit, function, and fashion together so you can look and feel your best. From corporate cowgirl looks that will have everyone in the office asking, "Where did you get your outfit?" to rodeo ready attire that equips you with extra confidence as you back in the box to every occasion in between. You're sure to find something special for everyone on your list at High Call Outfitters. Visit their website at highcalloutfitters.com or stop by their beautiful brick and mortar location if you're ever traveling through Great Bend, Kansas. Remember, friend, High Call has it all.
So the BOI report that you're talking about, it stands for Beneficial Ownership Information, or Beneficial Owner Information Report. And what it is, if you own a company that you have created by registering your company with the Secretary of State in your state or with a tribal government office, then your company is what they call a reporting company. So if you're just out doing business under your own name, this does not apply to you. But if you filed your business with your Secretary of State or your tribal government, it does. And so it's a law under the Corporate Transparency Act. It's ran through the U.S. Department of the Treasury, through the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, all those things. Basically, they set it up to try to find out if there were businesses in the United States that were operating illegally or being used as a front to launder money, to traffic people, those kinds of illicit activities. So they created this act to figure out who owns the companies in the United States. And just one bit of history, normally when you file those reports with your Secretary of State's office, you don't ever have to list who owns the company. So that's what this is all about. It's just a simple filing that says, this is who owns my company. And it's a free filing if you go online and do it online. And we help people do this and we charge them to help them do this, but it is a free filing. If you're tech savvy and you can go online and do it yourself, then it's a free filing. There are probably over 150 pages of instructional questions, manuals, and instructions that show you how to file this thing. But if you want us to file it for you, we can do it pretty simple and it doesn't take us long to do it. But it's just a report that shows who owns your company in a nutshell. That's kind of, I'm sure everybody has fallen asleep at this point, but that's what it's all about.
No. I'm over here when you're like, oh, it's like you can do it for free, but it's like 150 pages. And I'm like, girl, I don't even want to read through the thing on my iPhone that pops up whenever you have to approve to purchase an app. Do you think I want to read 150 pages of something? Oh, by the way, this could be detrimental to my business. No.
Right. Well, and if you don't file it, here's the thing. If you don't file your report by the end of this year, by December 31st, the penalty, it's $500 a day for a willful failure to file. So if you don't file it, they can penalize you up to $10,000. There's also a criminal element that could land you in jail for not filing it. So that's kind of the big scary thing that hangs over it. So it's a report that you need to file that basically shows who owns your company. And if you willfully fail to file it or refuse to file it, they can put you in jail or fine you up to $10,000. That's the scary part of it. The non-scary part of it is we can do it for you and we can show you how to do it. And then it's not a problem. But the other thing that's kind of important, if your business was already in place at the start of this year and at the beginning of 2024, then you have until the end of the year. But if you started your LLC or your corporation during 2024, you only have 90 days.
And what is the reasoning behind that? Like just trying to understand, it's just a rule they have in there or?
Well, because I think that's kind of a question I ask myself about laws all the time. I don't know that we understand the reasoning. I think it's because they're going to start requiring this. Well, they are requiring this of every new company that's being established in the United States. I think the more world gets a little crazy around us or crazier around us, they're trying to do something to say, okay, we're going to put a shutdown on people coming in and starting these front companies to do bad things. So I think that's why they're saying, you want to start a new company in the United States, then this is what's tied to that. You're going to have to tell us who you are. and who's running your company. So you've got 90 days to figure that out. And starting on January 1st of 2025, you only have 30 days from the date that you start your filing. So they're giving you 60 extra days in 2024, but only 30 in 2025.
And when you put it like that, Lisa, I'm like, it makes a ton of sense, because that's what we want, right? We want transparency, in who is coming over here and starting companies and things like that. And then I can also I'm thinking this could happen to anybody, but I'm imagining, a mutual friend of ours that runs is a former stock contractor. And like, I can imagine something gets sent in the mail and it's like, why do they keep sending me that? Why do they keep sending me that? And I'm going to put this off and not do it. And then before you know it, something that we weren't aware of then becomes a $10,000 fine, along with, time that you could spend in jail. And so that, in my mind, I'm like, this is so important because we do get so busy living and taking care of the day-to-day operations that we might not see this. We might not hear about this on a podcast or read it, think that this is applicable to us. Sometimes I feel that way. And so I just think it's so powerful. It's so important, the timing of this, for people to be aware, and then also not have to feel overwhelmed because you and your team, you have spent, I'm not even going to pretend to know how many hours, at this point, just obsessing over these details to get it right so you can serve people in our community.
Yeah, there are days I think, why am I doing this? But I'm doing it because you're right. People don't know. And I think a lot of companies, a lot of Secretary of State's offices have put mailers out and mailed things out to company owners saying, hey, you've got this report to file. But just like you said, we get a lot of that stuff and we're so busy, doing the color of our life that we don't pay attention to the black and white. And it's just one more of those, what looks like a form letter that we just toss in the trash.
Mm-hmm.
And there are also, Dakota, there are companies that are sending out mailers to people all around the country that are offering to file these reports. Some of them are offering to file them for, $300, $500, and they want you to fill out a form and send it back to them. The danger of doing that is that you don't know who you're dealing with in those companies. And there's lots of fraud and lots of scams, because part of what you have to do, you have to give them the tax identification number for your company. Sometimes that's, as single member LLCs, if we're just a solo person out there doing our business, that's our social security number. It could also, it could be a tax number, but it could be our social security number. You also have to upload a picture of your driver's license or your passport, some type of government issued photo ID, to show that this really is who I am, and turning that information over to someone on a form and mailing it back in and hoping that they don't ruin your life with, having access to your information. That's huge to me. And so we've tried to really market who we are so that who is going to have your information to do this report for you. And so that's when we really started thinking, there's so many people. I think we have over 30 to 40 million companies in the United States that are going to have to file these reports. And that's a lot of people trusting somebody else with their private information. So we created a video course called the BOI Blueprint. And the BOI Blueprint is, unfortunately, it's me walking you through. So you have to listen to me even longer, but it's a series of videos that walk you through exactly what this program is, what's required. Does your company have to report? If yes, then what information goes in there? And then how do we do it? And we walk you through how to do it. And you can upload your driver's license and all of the information yourself very easily, step by step. And by the time you open the first video till you have your report back in your hand, you're under an hour, hopefully a little quicker than that. But that way you keep your private information in your own hands and not turn it over to someone that you don't know.
What an incredible tool you and your team have created, Lisa. And I just want to say this again, because I know we've thrown a lot of information at our listeners today, but I just want to confirm. Number one, if you're tech savvy and you want to sit and read 150 pages of instructions to make sure you're doing this right, filing it right, this is a free filing. They can get online to do this. Second is, you and your team, you offer this service to where you can do this for someone. Or the third option is you have this blueprint course that they can take. It'll take them less than an hour to complete it, right at an hour. and they're actually doing the filing themselves and not having to share their information with anyone.
Wow, you said what I was trying to say very succinctly. Yes, very good.
No, those are just kind of I want to make sure people are understanding like there are different ways to go about this and solve this. And one of the things you and I had talked about before we push record, Lisa, is not only do you and your team know how to file this and you're willing to file it, but then let's talk about the upkeep of this and what that entails after you do it the first time.
There's no requirement, Dakota, as long as everything stays the same with your company and nothing changes, there's no requirement to ever do it again. But if any of the information that you submit on your initial report changes, then you have 30 days from the date that that information changes to file an updated report. So that could be anything from you get married and your last name changes, you move, your address changes, your company's address changes, anything that's a change to what you've already submitted, then you have to file an updated report. One thing I didn't mention earlier, though, Dakota, there are some CPA firms that are filing these, and some of them have really studied it and they know what they're doing, but it is a legal filing as opposed to a tax filing. But even though it involves a tax number, it's really a legal filing. So if people seek advice from their CPA on these, I would urge them to make sure that they're also covering it from a legal standpoint. For instance, part of the information you have to report is information about your beneficial owners. And sometimes that's not only your owners, it's who manages your company. If your company is in a trust, it could be the trustee of your trust. So sometimes the owners aren't the only people who have to file as an owner. So just make sure, I think one of the best things you can do in any business is seek wise counsel. And I just think if you're going to take on doing it yourself, at least make a phone call, figure out if someone can give you the right guidance on what actually has to be in this thing and not just from a tax standpoint.
Wonderful advice there, Lisa. Thank you so much. And I'm really excited to just get this episode in the ears of our Western community and beyond, really. And what does, with this being what you're really, working on, one of the pieces of your business, tell us a little bit more about, ways that you and your team, when it comes to the estate planning and things like that, just because I'm sure there's people listening that are like, okay, how is my experience that I'm collecting over the years going to put me into a position, to where like you feel like you have clarity on what you're doing now. And I just think that's such a beautiful place to be. And a lot of us are still trying to figure out how do all these puzzle pieces fit? And now looking at what you're doing, it's like, oh, this is how they fit. So any advice on for those of us that are kind of still trudging through, trying to figure out how all this different life experience is going to fit together, and really some other things you're looking forward to working on in this new business?
Wow, that's a lot. Let me think. Gosh, I think the things that I focus on most as far as trying to move forward and do things is to stay organized. And I have this little app called Trello. It's Trello. I don't get any bonuses for promoting Trello, but Trello saves my life. It helps me stay really organized. But I think if you stay organized, if you seek wise counsel, I mentioned that earlier, surround yourself by greatness. I think you really have to be cautious about who your inner circle is and don't let your circle become a cage. You have to surround yourself by people who are going to want you to be better. So many times people will want to help you, but they're still looking out for themselves and not for you. So surround yourself by good people, and you've got to have a balance. You've got to balance your personal life, your professional life, your physical life, your spiritual life. I think you have to have a balance. And I think so many times we get so focused on our career that we forget why we do the things we do. And it's for the people that we love. And if you can just, spend time, take the time, yesterday I had so many things to do before getting ready to go to work this morning. But instead I grabbed a snack and spent some time with my 12-year-old, and it was really good for me. So you have to have that balance. And, I think the spiritual part of your life, and I know this isn't a, quote unquote, Christian podcast, but that's a huge part of my life. I think so many times in my life I've had to have a reset and a restart. My personal life history, my life hasn't always just went down the yellow brick road. We've taken lots of trails through the bushes, in between all of these things. But there's a verse in Deuteronomy that I think is, just kind of like a cornerstone for me about being strong and courageous, that no matter what battle, they were going into a very dire situation where this verse takes place in God's word about being strong and courageous, that, when we go to battle, the Lord goes before us. He's going to go with us, and don't be afraid, don't be discouraged, because we're not alone. And, through him, we can be enough. And sometimes I don't think we give ourselves credit for really who we are, and that we're not ever alone. And, just don't be afraid. Just stay focused. Make sure you don't leave out any of those pieces, the personal, the professional, the physical, the spiritual. Put them all together, and it just falls in place. It will.
There no better way to answer that long-winded question of mine. I'm like, I want to ask her all the things, and I know we only have so much time today. So thank you, Lisa, for bringing all that together, making the puzzles fit there. And before we wrap up today, you are full of the cowgirl state of mind through and through. And so I want to know, what is the wildest thing you've ever had to patch together with duct tape, baling wire, hay string?
Oh gosh. A horse trailer. I had left, I was in Amarillo, and I was trying to come home to Oklahoma, and I had to borrow a horse trailer because I had a bearing problem on mine. But my horse had never had a mare, and, mares can be a little crazy. And she'd always ridden in a slant horse trailer. I'd never put her in a, side by side 2-horse trailer, but we did, and we headed home. And all of a sudden I was going down the interstate, probably 70 miles an hour. I don't know. And I thought I had a blowout, and I look in my rearview mirror, and the back door of the trailer is end over end flying down behind me. She had kicked the back door of the trailer off going down the interstate. So we had to, get out the wire cutters and use some baling wire, tie a door back on a horse trailer, and hope we got home safe. So it was a little crazy, but that would probably be the one thing that was the wildest thing I've had to try to fix with those things.
Oh, my adrenaline's pumping just from you saying that, because I've had blowouts going down the interstate, but that holds no candle to what you just described. So
I pulled over thinking I was going to find a horse with, major leg issues and the whole 9 yards. But, luckily, by the grace of God, everything was fine. So it was quite a moment. Of course, I was by myself. So
that's how those will happen. Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, goodness. Well, on that note, Lisa, we have thoroughly enjoyed getting to visit with you this morning, and just have that wise counsel, and wisdom shared with us today on what it's like to navigate careers, cowboys, kids, and cattle, as well as just how your career can be an extension of your servant heart and what you feel like you're placed on this earth to do. And so you have been a cheerleader of this podcast and the mission behind our podcast from the beginning. And I would love to know, in your words, what does the cowgirl state of mind mean to you?
I think I have to use my dad's words for that one, Dakota. He always told me, and he called me Sissy. He said, Sissy, you just have to saddle up and ride to it. And I think that's it. I think the cowgirl state of mind is, okay, you've got it before you, saddle up and ride to it. Don't be afraid of it.
That's so good. That needs to be on a t-shirt, postcard, ball cap, all the things, so we can look down and just remember that, Sissy, saddle up and ride to it. I love that. Lisa, where can everybody go to connect with you, to, access the BOI information, how they can work with you and file that if needed?
Okay, the easiest way probably, Dakota, is we have a website, and my law office has to stay separate from my company that does these, my LLC, and it's called Morgan Wyatt. It's MorganWyatt, morganwyatt.com. And so there's a link to everything on Morgan Wyatt, so they can find it there.
Okay, perfect. Lisa, I so appreciate you and just what you're doing for our Western community and the world. Really, you're making a difference in our country, and all while using the cowgirl state of mind and sharing your love for Jesus. It doesn't get any better than that.
I agree, Dakota. That's what life's all about. It's like what Mae West said. I'm probably going to get this wrong, but something about, you only live once, but if you do it right, once is enough.
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. Thanks again, Lisa.
Thank you.
Thank you for spending your time with me on the Cowgirl Confessions podcast. I'm so glad y'all stopped by. If you could take a moment to share this episode and tag us on social media, I'd be happier than a cowgirl in a sea of buy one, get one vintage turquoise. Subscribe to make sure you don't miss an episode. New episodes will be released bi-monthly. Please leave us a review if you feel so led by going to iTunes. Your feedback will really help us breed the idea of grabbing life by the horns with a cowgirl state of mind into women across the globe. Some that may have never even had the privilege to throw their leg over a horse, but could most certainly use the cowgirl state of mind while navigating life. Thanks again, y'all. Until next time, keep pursuing your dreams with that all go and no woe mentality. Remember, you're writing a story that's worth saddling up for, sister.